Yes, yes, yes. This is a Castworthy podcast, and we are back. It is Sunday, July 2nd, 2023, and we're here to talk about lots of stuff today. I'm Big Steve, aka Last of a Dying Breed, on the Twitter machine, joined today by EJ, the Savage, and the VP of Research. And if you can't tell by the VP's face, Supreme Court has made some decisions this week that are unfavorable to blacks,
Unconscionable.
unfavorable to,
Unconscionable.
yeah, sure, that, to gays, and what's the word?
Un-
Only conch I know is from the Caribbean, fried. You know, they throw in a little salad, put some tomatoes in there,
You're ridiculous.
cockinable. Uh, and also, they clearly don't give a shit about those who are in debt due to student loans, as neither does the VP. Um, and Joe Biden has failed us. So, VP, tell us a little bit about the week that was. Let's just get right to it. I can see the fury in your eyes. And I figure let's get that out the way so we can get to some fun stuff.
sure. Good morning, fellas. Also, before we get started, since I got the mic, let me just want to say anniversary to my hot wife. 22 years down, forever to go. Yeah, I love you. So,
Oh.
Aw, happy anniversary, guys.
Oh man.
so
22 and 10.
yeah, man. Who would have thought?
That's what's
But
What's the secret?
what is
but
the secret? Shit, me.
but yeah, um, Steve to the Supreme Court this week, and I mean, the court has done some, disastrous shit over the years, but the cases that we saw come out this week, um, the affirmative action case out of Harvard and University of North Carolina, um, the 303 case, which is a gay rights case out of Colorado, and the student loan debt forgiveness. Those three cases, I feel like are really up there in the bullshit that is coming out of the court. And what I mean is, um, if you look at the 303 create, uh, what this case is about, woman in Colorado who designs websites, and she sues the state of Colorado over their anti-discrimination law, not because she has discriminated against somebody who's gay, um, and then the state puts some kind of sanction on her, but all based on hypotheticals. And her thing is that one day a gay couple may come to her and ask her to design a website. She probably will say no because it violates her, it's against her religious beliefs, right? And then the state of Colorado may put kind of sanctions on her to do it, and so she's suing to stop them that, to stop them from doing this thing that hasn't happened. You know what I mean? And the shit that's so fucked up about it is that the court's rules very clearly say that the court doesn't make rulings based on hypotheticals, right? There's a legal doctrine or theory called ripeness, meaning that the court will say this case is not ripe enough. It hasn't, there's not enough shit that's happened to make us have to get involved here. And in this case, nothing has happened except this person says,
no precedence.
right. This person basically said, you know, I may go get a haircut next month, and I may protection from the Clippers. Therefore, I'm suing the barbershop.
Well, why would
Like,
they? Why would they even rule on it if it's not a thing, and if that's a rule or a law or whatever they you know it is? Like, why would that? Why would that
Right.
happen? And my question, I guess, before we get into even more of this, and you could probably clarify it, is why are these people like the be all end all of everything that goes through there? Like, there's no overturning, there's nobody above these people that could say, yo, this shit is garbage, whatever it might be. In this case, and I mean, like, they're there to rule on shit. So if they rule one way for affirmative action or gay rights or student loans, that's one thing. But if you're telling me there's something written somewhere that says you can't rule on hypothetical shit, and they're ruling on something hypothetical, how come there's nothing in place to say, yo, nah, we can't do this?
so there is something in place, and you said how come they're doing it. One, it's just an exercise in raw power. That's all it is. We can, so we will. You know, do live with it. That's basically it, right? Now, when you say is there somebody who can stop them or overrule? Yeah, sure, there's somebody who could overrule them, whatever. The Congress, the Congress could pass a law that basically checks the court. Right? We have a three-tiered system that operates under checks and balances: the executive, the legislature, and the judicial. But the courts, they understand that the Congress is deadlocked, right?
Mm.
And you need 60 votes to pass anything in the Senate. And so even if the House, which is under Republican control, which won't pass anything to stop this court, but let's say the Democrats control it and they pass something, they know it won't get past the Senate. So it ain't gonna happen. So at the end of the day, the buck stops with them.
Mm. Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so that was the first guy. I don't know if you guys wanted to talk about that anymore before you go
How
to the
come they
next.
don't got no HR? Like, Supreme Court don't got no HR. Like, I can't go to HR and be like, yo, this is unconstitutional.
They do, but the problem is that the court, the Supreme Court is the head of the judiciary, right? And
Hmm.
so all the rules that apply to the throughout the judiciary don't apply to them. They don't. They can pick and choose what they abide by, and the reason that they give for this is because like there's no court above them, right? So it's the same thing like with a recusal when they're supposed to step aside for cases that they have an interest in, or if an objective observer excuse me, an objective observer might look at it and say, man, there seems like something sketchy here, you know. So when Harlan Crow, the Texas billionaire, is taking Clarence Thomas on vacations valued at hundreds of thousands of dollars, he pays for his son, his adoptive son, to attend school. He buys his mother house and essentially is her landlord, allows her to live rent free. When he's involved in cases that come before the Supreme Court, Clarence Thomas probably likely should recuse from that, right? That's what any regular observer would say. But there's nobody above him saying, "Hey, man, you got to step down." So it's up to him whether he steps down or not. You know,
In short, the U.S. government system, the way it's designed, is outdated. It's
yeah,
flawed, and it doesn't serve the people.
Sounds like
that's
Game
Uh,
of
exactly right.
Thrones.
yeah, I mean that's the problem. You have this system where we're looking at the Supreme Court where people are serving life terms. They have no real checks and balances because everyone's in someone's pocket. The same with the Congress on either side. You follow the money. You find the political motivation. Very few of them are actually caring about the everyday citizen, and it's nasty. We can send $6 billion to Ukraine, but we have a president currently that wants to still believe there's a bipartisan ideal that will do things right for the people. When really, he could go out on a shield here, and hopefully, maybe he does in some roundabout way, and say, you know what, I'm gonna do this and ask for forgiveness later.
Well, we talked about him, doing something like that for his family, and potentially if he was put in that position, but otherwise, and I think that's a big piece to it, EJ. And this is, I don't. I try to be as fair as possible when having these types of conversations personally, from my standpoint, because I'm not a huge political nerd like Vari and and even you for that matter. But I think the key for me, right, VP and EJ, is what you just said. Biden, it always seems like he thinks there are good people on both sides. Like he's been in politics so long, he's built relationships with these people so long that he loses sight of what's at the front and what they're doing when it's work time. And when work is done and they're all hanging out and chilling and having their drinks or doing whatever at the after party and shit, it's like that's the part he remembers. And he's always like, yo, no, these are good people. They're going to do what's right. Like, and that shit, I think it's time for someone like just somebody younger, right? Just somebody younger to get in there and be like, nah, y'all some fucking scumbags.
So I think that you're right, Steve, but I would just add one caveat to that. I think that part of the reason Biden does, I think Biden understands who these people are, right? Because, like you said, he's been in politics for so long. Many of those people who are in the Senate, for example, he served with, since because he was there for so long. But he also understands the math, right? Even though his party controls the Senate for right now, they don't control the House, so that's why you don't see any real legislation being passed, right? But even though his party controls the Senate, he has to also understand that Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema exist, right? And there are priorities that he have that they're not going to vote for, right? And he may need to get some of these people who he says, "Oh yeah, they're good people. They just lost their way." He may need to get them to vote for some shit, and it's probably hard to get them to vote for some shit if you're killing them every day. You know what I'm saying? And so I think there's a bit of him trying to keep them in the fold, so to speak, to get them to give them a vote on something. You know what I mean?
Thank you, Crane.
We talked about this before, and VP talked about the different tactics that have been used in the past when you have people in your party that are troublesome. And it's where's the messaging to the people that matter? I mean, where's the messaging to say, hey, affirmative action in West Virginia, Joe Manchin state, benefits white people the most because the state institution that's actually a historically black college that has had a larger white percentage of people for the last 20, 30 years, your money that they're getting to give you people an education is going out the window now. So, when you want to go to West Virginia, when you want to go to the big university, but you can't afford it, hey, this is what happens. You know what I mean? Where's that messaging that needs to be taking place? White women historically have benefited from affirmative action. A lot of white folks in general are benefiting from affirmative action more than minorities. There's been tons of articles since the 80s that have said this. And when you look at the historically black colleges again in certain states, in Delaware State, Joe's home state, being the only flagship university in the state of Delaware, has received historically since its founding the least amount of state funding of all the other institutions, and currently serves almost just as many white folks as the private predominantly white institution. Why? Because these HBCUs are able to get funds for in-state college goers who happen to be minorities at HBCUs. So again, this is the stuff that when it comes down to educating your voters and rallying your people, one side doesn't do very well in reference to the other side. The other side, they speak to the racism, the undercover bigots, the all of that. They speak to them very well. They speak their language, and these people get to vote spite themselves because they're just motivated to. The left, we're just sitting here on our hands and just waiting, knowing that these issues affect our voters and they just don't know it, or they just need to put out the messaging that, hey, these decisions are not going to work for you. You need to get with your legislation. We need to change some things on a congressional level, and we need to make things happen. But it doesn't seem like the issues that really matter for the American people really matter for our government as a whole.
So I agree with the last thing you said there, right? But I also feel like, and I've said this like I don't know how many times, on the pod, in chat, etc., that it's easy to throw blame at the politicians, whoever's in charge, right? And people have to take accountability for themselves, right? And I'm not necessarily talking about us, because we are folks who, I'm a little bit more politically plugged in than you guys are, but it's not like you're not paying attention, you know what I'm saying? But when it's November time frame, you guys make sure you're registered, you make sure you vote, whether it's early, day of, by mail, etc., right? Your people vote, you know what I mean? Your parents, the people you're close to, spouse, significant other, etc. You know what I mean? And same thing with me. But there are a group of people, or not a group of, there are tons of people, I'll say, that essentially complain about everything but don't do anything about it, right?
Hmm.
And let me give you an example. Last year in June, the same time last year, the Supreme Court overturned Roe, right? The right to an abortion. So abortion care became based on where your zip code is, whether or not you can be forced to have a child, right? People said they were furious about this shit. And then when it became November timeframe, they voted and gave the House of Representatives to control of the Republicans, the people who are against abortion rights. You see what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So people are talking out of one side of their mouth saying, I'm angry, I'm fired up. This shit will not stand. It cannot stand. What the fuck is Joe doing? And da 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 da. And then when the ball's in their court in November, they said, yeah, I got shit to do. Yeah, I was gonna go vote, but I mean that new iPhone line was kind of long. I had to make it. I had to make a decision.
I think, well,
So
I think part of that too, right? I don't discredit the fact that a lot of people are not voting, but I think there's a big piece of it where people prioritize what they care about, right? And so while they might care about Roe v. Wade, that might be at the bottom of the priority list. And at the top of the priority list might be guns and their hate for gays and things like that. So the people that do actually go out to vote, you might have someone who's furious about Roe v. Wade, but then they look at the people and they're like, I want to keep my AR-15, right? And I think the reality of it is, beyond that, is just people are just so ignorant and so programmable that they feel like when someone gets on TV and says, "Hey, Joe Biden or whomever, they're out to come to your house, knock on your door, and take your guns," and people feel like that's going to happen, as if that hasn't been being said for X amount of years and has yet to happen ever. So I think that's part of the problem as well. When you're there, people are furious today. They're mad. Oh, what do you mean? They don't. She doesn't have to serve gays. What? This is ridiculous. Those same people, when it comes time to vote, are going to be like, I don't really care about them gays that much.
but let me
This
give
is,
you another
I
example
wanted
real quick.
I wanted to respond to what you said to what I said. And again, we put the onus on the people and the voting, and we know that these are things that we've known historically. My point is, and a point that you have made several times, is when is the Democratic Party going to get in the fight? When are we going to start to see the rhetoric that
They're
says
not. We know they're not.
is saying, hey, again, I used a perfect example, and VP's even made this point before. West Virginia, we can't get Joe to do the right thing. Let's circumvent around him and show his his constituents how affirmative action hurts them the most. Because to your point, Steve, people can come out and vote, but they pick and choose. When you look at what we're voting for and how people are rally, and even going back to Obama's run, and how many people of color were just so inspired to do the right things because they were tapping into the rappers. We were using different ways, non-traditional ways to get people to the polls. What then happens when we have that steam? We don't go back to the well. We're not tapping into young people that are mass are bogged down in college debt from 40 to 25. We're not tapping into them. We're not getting them to the polls because they don't care. They don't feel like they're anything that they're gonna do is gonna matter. And it's only on the subjects that they really feel this passionate about, or even the people to VP's point that said, hey, Roe v. Wade, you got people from 25 to 35 that ain't thinking about it. And they say on paper, they say on podcasts, they say on NPR that they care, but they don't. It doesn't really apply to them. And that's the problem of connecting everyday life to the vote and what matters. And that's one of the biggest problems of this country. Everyone has the capitalistic mindset. Well, shit don't bother you, let it fly. I got mine. I don't worry about it. Even when it comes to student loans.
So let me say two things about that point, EJ. And I don't necessarily disagree with what you just said, right? But what you're saying they should do, they have done, right? When Joe Manchin voted against keeping or forced them to strip out the I can't think of what it was called, but when they were sending those like payments for like if you had kids or whatever
Mhm.
each month, I can't remember the name of it, but you know what I'm talking about, right? It was like $250 or something like that.
Mhm.
Kids, when they forced them to strip that out or whatever, um, Biden made noise about it. They sent Kamala to West Virginia to talk about it and how it impacted the people of West Virginia, right? But these things don't happen in a vacuum. Manchin got pissed and pushed back and basically was like, not only I'll strip this shit out, I'll kill this whole bill. You know what I mean? And so I think they looked at it like, we can't let, perfect be the enemy of good. You know what I'm saying? That's one point. The second point you made about circumventing Joe Manchin, or I mean, I guess that was all part of your point,
Same thing.
is
Yeah.
they had an opportunity to do that, right? So in Wisconsin this past election, you had a guy, Mandela Ball. He was the lieutenant governor of the state of Wisconsin. He ran for Senate. This was somebody who said, I'm ready to vote against the filibuster to get rid of it. And that money that we were sending for children each month, I'm ready to get that going back and make it permanent. And the people of Wisconsin voted for a Democratic governor, a Democratic lieutenant governor, a Democratic attorney general, a Democratic secretary of state. Every statewide office, they voted for a Democrat. And then for the black guy running for U.S. Senate, they voted for the Republican. So, so
Well, that's
again,
because he's black. And it's Wisconsin.
I'm making the point though is that you know yes, these politicians are fucked up. They do fucked up things. A lot of times they don't have people's best interests at heart and things like that, right? But at the same time, I don't think that we can just lay it all at their feet.
Not
We
laying
we
it
have to
off.
take some
Absolutely.
accountability in that.
Absolutely, but it sounds like what you said what happened with Joe Manchin. Let's not run away from that. Is Joe Manchin got a little bit ticked off, and we, as the leadership of this party, got a little afraid and said we don't want to lose him. It's good
Mhm.
for the goose.
We did
Nah,
some sucker shit.
what's up with the chucks and the voting? Like, what's up with all of that? What's all of
I
that?
got you. And I don't I
Like,
don't I don't think I
I
don't think
haven't
that's
seen this
wrong.
lady since
Who?
the VP,
Kamala.
the whole
Oh,
chucks and pearls and voting and this and that. We get you in there, and then what? Then what? This is why people from 25 to 35 don't care about nothing else. It's like if you ain't giving us our student loans, we ain't trying to hear it.
Yeah,
And that's
Kamala's job was to do what Michelle did for Obama. I get it; she's not Joe's wife, and that's not what I'm saying. But Michelle was out there regularly, visible everywhere that you would have wanted. To EJ's point, where he's talking about being, different. Going to the black colleges, the HBCUs, and stuff like that. And Kamala did it. Kamala, however you want to say it, she did it enough.
it's Kamala.
It's
However
Kamala.
you want to say it.
Uh, she did it enough, to get them in. But now that she's in, she just like the rest of us. Like, oh, I got the job. First thing she did was pulled up the calculator on her iPhone. Do do do. Oh, okay, this is what my paycheck about to be. All right, I'm gonna do just enough, and that's what it almost seems like. Now, what I will say to EJ's point, and VP missed his opportunity. EJ said, why don't they go do this? Why don't they show up here? Why don't they show up that? Well, when they do, we call them pandering. So there's an opportunity there. But also, the last thing that I'll say personally about this is Democrats are Republicans in drag. That's what I'm seeing. Like, these Democrats feel the exact same way, and basically they don't want to lose their bag. So they're going to put on in front of us and be like, "Oh, we really really care." But to your point, EJ, when it's time to fight, no, they're going to take that soft road. Oh, Joe, no, it's Joe Manchin's fault. Let's blame this guy. But guess what? They still getting their bag. They don't really care. They don't give a shit. They talk this big game. They don't care about student loans. You know why? Because they don't have student loans. Nobody in their family has student loans. Nobody in their bloodline will ever have student loan. So they don't truly care. It sounds good because it will allow them to keep their place, in the Senate or wherever. But that's it. They don't truly care. So there's no additional fight to it. Hey, we're gonna put this bill out here. We're gonna go ahead and talk, stand on TV and say, hey, we're all for this. But when there's any sense of pushback, they're gonna be like, ah, not our battle. That's not how we do
Fold like a
things.
fortune
Yeah,
cookie.
that's not our party. We don't do that. We take the high road. Well, the high road ain't getting shit.
So, to your first point, Steve, about Kamala, I think you're exactly right. You know what I mean, and look at it from this standpoint, right? People already talk about Joe Biden as if he's like some puppet president, and Jill Biden is actually running the country and all this kind of thing like that. So, first of all, they don't put the VP out front just because, like, you know, Destiny's Child doesn't lead with Kelly. They lead with Beyonce. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And the presidency operates in the same manner. You know what I mean? Like
Kelly
the
was the one
president.
that fell, not Beyonce. Actually, no, that was Michelle. My bad.
or Michelle, yeah, whatever her name was. Not yeah, the new one I'm talking about. But
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying.
yeah.
So if they had done that and start putting Kamala out there more, you would start seeing this stuff. Like, why is she out front so much? How come Biden isn't? Da 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 da. And so even though I get your point or whatever. They can't let her be like in the lead on a bunch of shit because it just makes the president look bad. That's one. Two, to your second point about paying lip service to causes and things like that. I think that you're absolutely right, and I think that this has always been a struggle for Democrats. I would say probably post maybe since like Jimmy Carter, maybe Clinton, but it's we're gonna champion these causes sometimes just with words, and no action, or we're gonna take action, but it's not gonna be too much, or and at some point people do get fed up, right? But the thing that I talk about when I talk about the people, right? I don't just mean voting, right? And I know you guys understand what I'm talking about when I say this or whatever. I'm talking about actual activism. You know what I'm saying? And one of the reasons why Republicans do the things that the people who vote for them want them to do when it comes to stuff like guns and taxes and regulation and shit like that is because these people are active. They're always out there. They're always making noise, and they let them know if you don't do this, we're gonna vote you out. Point blank. Period. You know what I mean? And sometimes these people will cross them, and maybe they survive, right? But they learn that lesson and say, "Man, last time when I had to go through that primary, I damn near didn't make it. So you know what? Next time, I'm gonna stay in line." You know what I'm saying? And on the Democrat side, we don't, we say, okay, we voted in November. You got it, Joe. See you in 4 years. and we have to stay on these people throughout the process. Showing up at town halls and making noise about what we care about. You know, uh, uh, um, calling your congressman or whatever. We can't just vote in November and then go back to our lives. And I'm not saying you got to dedicate every single day of your life to some kind of political activism, but when there's an issue that you really, really care about and you let these people know this shit will not, I'm not for it, and so these politicians changed their mind. Case in point, when fucking um um uh what's his name, when Kavanaugh was going through for Supreme Court, that dude Jeff Flake, senator out of Arizona, was ready to push it through, and people were like, "Yo, like we need to look more into this shit about the rape allegations." Like what the fuck? And they came to the Capitol and they went to his office and they followed him down in the Senate, making noise, making noise, making noise. And then when they came to vote, he just vote. So, like people can have an impact, but sometimes they choose not to.
Yeah,
With that
yeah.
being said, the last thing with the court, wherever we've been here for a while, is it was the we actually already hit our three: Supreme Court affirmative action and the gay rights case.
Yep. Yep.
But
Yeah.
real quick on the student loans, real quick, Biden announced the same day of the Supreme Court ruling that he's rolling out another debt forgiveness plan. The one that just got overturned by the Supreme Court was using the HEROES Act from 2002, passed in by Congress. Now they're going to be using the Higher Education Act of 1965 to try to do some kind of debt program. I haven't really seen a lot of details on it yet, so I can't really describe exactly what it's about, but they've started the process on that. So I guess watch this space on that one.
EJ, you know a lot more about HBCUs than I do. But at the top, is it generally black people? Your meter, like the
Yeah,
decision
you're talking
making
about
there. So
the administration.
yeah,
Yeah, most times your administration, from your president to your VPs, I mean, sprinkled in there you got some white folks largely, but what you typically hope is happening is that most of the leadership involved has an idea of what HBCUs stand for and what they mean. Do they have they actually received their education from an HBCU? Oftentimes, no. You know, sometimes they have, and they still do wild shit. HBCUs are a whole another thing in themselves, as far as how they run culturally and how they operate. Shit, one of the leading higher education researchers and experts of the HBCU field is Mary Beth Gadsman, who is a professor, a white professor at a PWI, never taught at a HBCU, never attended one, but she made her bones years ago, saying, "Hey, I want to do research on this thing." So people are actually using her as an expert. So I mean, it just goes to show you that black people, uh, to your point, we have control, but is it the true essence of everything that's going on? Maybe, maybe not. It all depends on the university and alumni.
if I'm a university, like any specific one, and I'm at the top, I'm gonna be like, guess what? Next year, you ain't black, you ain't getting in,
It
because
is.
that's the law that was just passed, right? Was it? Was it not?
I mean,
We're
they
not.
No.
basically said
We
they basically said like you can't use race as a factor in college admissions, right?
Yeah.
They so essentially what they
But you
did is
can't
they
prove that
essentially
I
killed
chose
affirmative
anything else,
action,
right?
huh?
You can't prove that I used something else though, or that I
And
didn't use
that's
something else.
that's the exact point where I was going, right? So what they did is say you can't use race as a factor. Now, if somebody writes their essay and they say, oh, my Hispanic heritage taught me, boop 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 boop, and you say, oh man, this person, their upbringing just seems so great, boom, we're gonna let them in, even though we didn't use race as a factor, but we said, that their heritage, kind of molded them into this kind of student that we want them to be, right? How do you prove you didn't use race as a factor? And this is the problem, right? Because the way that this thing is written now is because you can't prove it and you can't disprove it. So now, next year, when Harvard, UNC, or any other college for that matter, lets in, a black person, a Mexican person, whatever, somebody can sue and say, oh, I applied to insert school name and I then be race. And when you look at the admittance percentages from that year, it seems like they let in more black people, Hispanic people, Asian people, whatever, than they did the year before. So they must be using race as a factor. I'm taking them to court. Now, when the university goes to court, how do they defend themselves against something that you can't
Well,
prove or disprove? So what
the
happens is,
reality.
hang on one second, EJ. So what happens is that the schools are gonna basically self-impose this thing on themselves to say we're not going to consider race at all because we don't want to get sued, because when we do, we can't prove that we did or didn't use race, so we're just gonna go back to business as usual where minorities get fucked.
Just take it off the application.
The reality is the affirmative action piece isn't just as simple as access versus not access. The affirmative action piece was introduced because blacks were able to say historically over time that, hey, as a qualified individual, I've applied and these people continue to deny me without any real merit to my ability. And then the numbers can show that there has been a low enrollment of a certain minority group across the board. The reality is, white folks or other whoever is have been challenging affirmative action since the very beginning. They have been getting sued countless times, and it always, depends on the litigation that comes out with that. The
Hey,
thing
EJ, real
about it,
quick,
the
this
thing
case
about
was brought by Asian people,
the thing about it, which case are you talking about?
the ones that just overturned affirmative
I'm
action.
not that still has nothing to do with what I'm saying.
No, I just wanted to put that out there.
It doesn't matter. What I'm saying is, again, these universities like your Harvards and everything, black people and other minorities are still the minorities. And again, it's about that university's willingness to look at their admissions practices and say, are we admitting people of equal standing at a similar rate? And the reality is, when you have places like Harvard with legacy students and the tuition, and there's not a lot of money for minorities to get into these places, you're always going to have some number disparities and things of that nature. Again, affirmative action has benefited white women more than any other minority in the nation. This is true. So when you're talking about what you're saying, Steve, at a HBCU, it's never really gonna be that way because HBCUs, like black people, have always kept their doors open to everyone. Like I said, in states like Delaware and West Virginia has HBCU Bloomfield, which is predominantly white due to the population and the people that they're getting there. So I think this affirmative action piece actually hurts that community more than anything because they were receiving dollars to say, hey, we're bringing in more minority people. And I think that's the other piece that we're not looking at is how is the federal funding going to impact the admissions to some of these universities. And what I was arguing in the chat over the weekend is that Harvard, they've been trying to say that they've been making a more concerted effort to allow blacks in, and that's okay. That's also not the one all of the problem. The other thing is too that no one talks about is that you can let minorities in, but are you cultivating a space for them to actually succeed? So I mean, it's a lot to it. I mean, I think on paper, right, we can all agree that getting rid of affirmative action just doesn't make sense because we know why it was in place. It was in place because the places like Harvard, Princeton that still do these things are not admitting people with a fair shake. They're not getting a fair shake. So I mean that it's not to it. It's not just not letting you in or this way or that way. It's a lot to it. But I mean, I think we can all agree that something with this undertone isn't good for where we've come as a nation. It is a step back on paper.
Right, and also what happens here. Let's not forget. I'm pretty sure you know this, EJ, but for the larger audience and Steve is that a lot of these legacy admission, or not a lot of most of these legacy admissions started
Universities. Mhm.
because of desegregation and things like that. So these universities essentially said, okay, the government says we have to start letting minorities go to school here. So in order to keep them out, we're gonna do legacy admission. Okay, your grandfather went here, your uncle went here, cool. Now you can go. And then they say, oh, hey, we don't have no more spots because we filled it up with legacies.
Hmm.
And the Supreme Court essentially said that affirmative action is done, but only done for Black people because legacy admissions are still okay, right? Donor, donate $1 million to help us build the new research facility, the new library, the new economics building or whatever. Yeah, your kid can come here too. You know,
I mean, but
those admissions are still fine. It's
that's
just
always been
the ones
around.
for minorities.
That's always been around, and that also goes back to the other thing as a people, right? Because even in HBCUs we have the legacy admissions practice because here's the logic behind it, right? If you're a legacy, just from a financial point, if you're a legacy, there's a higher percentage that your parents can actually afford to pay out of pocket versus we needing to rely on other things. This is the HBCU uh, thought behind it, and I can't say that's the same for the PWIs because I can argue that it's probably not. But here's the other thing: when you're a minority in this country, right? The other thing is to lobby to your state administrators to make it easier for you to stay in state and go to the Morgan states, to go to the Delaware State universities. This also goes back to our people and saying, look, you don't have to go to Harvard to get a degree. No one starts to check after a certain amount of time anyway. So I mean, I don't
Hmm.
I'm just speaking for our people and even other minorities. Start to look into these institutions that will invest more in your success and your admissions versus the others that may still present to be a problem.
So I understand that, right? And that may be what legacy admissions are now, right? But I'm talking about like the historical reason of why we got legacy admissions at some of these universities that are PWIs, right? But the larger point that I'm making is that if you're saying affirmative action is bad, why is it not bad across the board? You understand what I'm saying? Because even in this ruling, right? Because you had the military that came out and said, "Yo, this ruling is going to be bad for us. We need to have affirmative action because it allows us to get a larger swath of the American people into these military academies to make our leadership more diverse." Right? And the Supreme Court in this ruling exempted the military from this, right? So they killed affirmative action everywhere except the military academies. But then that's even also a problem because of military leadership, only 18% of them come from military academies, from West Point, the Naval Academy, the Air Force Academy, etc. More than 60% of them come from regular colleges, from the places like EJ is talking about. And so now if you have those places coming from those ROTC programs at these regular colleges that don't have affirmative action, you're going to have a leadership that's more white.
So just to quickly push back, legacy admissions have been going on for centuries. I don't know that you're going to find empirical data that's going to support that affirmative action became the reason that some of these places have done it, because this is something that they've been doing off the books since the founding of these universities. Not arguing to your point that there might be a sinister piece around it after affirmative action. Not arguing. I don't know that you're going to find much facts. I don't know that. I'm just saying. But
There is,
the
I've
other
seen some stuff.
part about, I think those are going to be opinion pieces because no university is going to admit it. But here's the other thing. The other piece behind that is you made me lose my train of thought there. Um, you said something about affirmative action. Oh, the reason that a lot of people have problem with the affirmative action piece, it's not even the wealthy whites. It's the everyday middle of the road white person that is maybe not wealthy, doesn't have the legacy piece, and then they're looking at Steve saying, "Well, he got a 1450, I got a 1430. Why is he getting admissions over me?" It's people again across America that don't have a pot to piss in, but because I'm black and they're white, they feel like they need to have a leg up on us. That's the real problem of affirmative action in the workplace and in college. Let's not forget this is a thing that impacts the workplace. You got white folks that come in and say, well, the only reason she got the job is because she was black. It's just because you have middle of the road people that are white Americans that feel like because this minority is in a place they haven't typically been in, they shouldn't be. So I'm gonna blame it on affirmative action. That's what it boils down to. People are afraid of their stature and their standing in this nation, and they want to blame it on everything else but merit. That's what it boils down to.
VP, you said this was brought forward by Asian
Yeah,
individuals.
Some Asian students back in I think this case started in like 2015
Is that the same
or
Asian that
2016 or something
we?
like that.
That's the same Asian that got a discrimination law before black people, and um, the George Floyd bill didn't pass, and all this fine stuff. But because of Wuhan and people being treated unfairly because of COVID, the United States decided that that was more important than black people.
Yeah, Asian folks.
Okay,
Again, like I said, another minority group upset that
that gets priority in America over black people. That's my point. That's always my point. Always my point.
It's
Um,
not just a priority thing. I think that some people who are um in minority groups, I think some of them, and obviously, any group is not a monolith, right? But I think that some of these people think that if we just act like the model citizen, right, then we can be treated like white, you know, and they don't. It's like they don't understand that um these people don't like you. Like you're not white, so that you can do whatever you want or whatever. But at
mhm.
the end of the day, you're you. So they're not gonna fuck with you. Like people like I mean even think about like and we were having like all that immigration and stuff from Europe and like Italians were coming in and people from Ireland and you probably seen the science and history book like no Irish need apply or something like that, and these people basically came in and realized, I mean, yeah, we're Italian, we're you know Irish or Scottish or whatever, we got some crazy accents, but at the end of the day, I mean, we pass for white, so as long as we act like them and we, shit on black people just the way they do, we're gonna be accepted. And the shit is foul, yo. The shit is foul.
I mean, but can we expect anything else? I mean, we are the only marginalized group that has not been given anything for the atrocities that this nation, that this government has put us through.
Well, not according to your boy Clarence Thomas. Everything's all good, man.
Hey man, I listen. Can't speak for him, brother. Can't speak for
I,
him.
I just I just really don't, it's that like how like shit happens with certain things or with people and you're like, man, I don't even know why I'm shocked, it still shocks me like the levels that this dude has sunk into, like he's definitely in the sunken place, you know. I mean, you talking about a black guy who grew up
He ain't
in
black.
Georgia,
Just cause they
in
skin folk don't mean you kin folk.
right, but a black man who grew up in Georgia in like I think in like the 40s or 50s.
But they have terms for that, man. That's it's not only just the Stockholm syndrome. It's you've had, I can't remember the term for it, but you've been around that so much, you've conditioned yourself to be the oppressor.
Look at his face.
He
Clarence
looks like an
Thomas.
old white
Clarence,
man.
Clarence Thomas looked like a dude that would hate black people. He looked like he hates himself. Like he don't like when he looks in the mirror. Like he looks like that type of dude. Like every character I've ever seen that's been, created to show like black people that hate like Clayton Bigsby and Uncle Ruckus and stuff like that. They all resemble Clarence Thomas. Like he just looks like that type of guy. So it doesn't surprise me at all. Like and clearly who put him in place for?
Bush 41,
So
George H.W.
why would we be surprised in any way? There's no surprise there. There's none whatsoever. All right, we spent 50 minutes on that stuff. NBA free agency has started. Lots of movement. Lots of parity in the league next year. Expected. Um,
I mean, is it
what
though?
is that? Did you start vacuuming?
Vari's laptop fan.
Oh,
Oh
your
my
fan
god.
cut on.
Yeah,
Did you just take the mic and put it up to the fan? The fan has something to say. Let's hear from the fans.
it's been on like the last 20 minutes.
We start talking about the NBA. Since the Heat ain't done shit, now he want to start making background noise.
I think
Uh,
it's quiet, so you heard it for the first time, but it's been on for a minute.
so notable moves. What you got there, VP? I know you're the guy that as you pull those up because I know you don't have them ready. We'll talk about EJ. Where do you think Dame Lillard is going to land? It came out yesterday that he requested a trade. A couple weeks ago, they said that he met with. There was a note that came out from Vari's guy, who only got his job because he followed LeBron and
Windhorse.
swaddled him.
Windhorse.
Brian
Yeah,
Windhorse.
that when Dame left that meeting, he had not requested a trade. And up until today or yesterday, we knew nothing of it. And yesterday, they're saying Dame requested a trade
Yeah, the
from the
Trailblazers
Portland
came out and said
Trailblazers.
that. Yeah. I mean, Dame, honestly, at this point, I really don't care. Honestly, you asked where I think, but
Is he the biggest
he
pause
on
that's
paper, I think
left?
so. Yeah, obviously on paper. I mean, everybody that's ran around today, and again, when you look at your high level superstars, not many of them are gonna be going anywhere, right? Because they're tied into their franchises, except for maybe the likes of James Harden. But Dame is
Mm.
obviously the biggest fish out there. But I mean, to me at this point, nothing seems to make sense. Like the Heat is the destination he says he wants to go, but we can assume that Portland wants Miami to gut their team, which is something Pat Riley ain't trying to do, and it doesn't make sense for Pat Riley to even remotely acquiesce to do. Where I don't really see that being a happy marriage one way or the other. New York, we don't have any direction. So I don't even think it would make any sense for us. I don't know what we would be sending that way. Any other team, the Brooklyn Nets, I can't even believe the Brooklyn Nets are in discussion. I can't even believe that Dame would say he would want to go there. I mean, while they have a good little core and they're gonna make a run, that ain't a place that you want to play and follow behind KD and Kyrie, because the moment you don't do nothing, they're gonna kill you.
And not
Philly,
just that. I mean, at this stage of his career, he's trying to win a championship, and that team is that he's
it's
basically going
not
back
going.
to Portland if
You
he goes to
going to
Brooklyn.
Portland? You going to Portland because whatever Brooklyn sends Portland, you're gonna be by yourself in Brooklyn.
Hmm.
Philly is the most, to me, it makes the most sense on both sides. You send Harden, you send Harris, you maybe even have to send Maxi, but it makes the most sense. But at this point in time, and I've said this before, and I've been saying it before, Dame has shot himself in the ass. All of that, I don't want to join up super team nonsense. And now you finally realizing you ain't getting no younger. It's time for me to get out of here. But you're a little bit too late. I mean, when you had the opportunity to not resign, when you had the opportunity early on, when you were younger and you could have maybe got more value, I think that was the time. I think now anything that he does, the receiving team is gonna be kind of on the short end of the stick, especially if you're Miami, especially if you're anyone else, probably other than Philly. So I don't think he gets moved now, maybe later at the trade deadline, but I don't know. I don't see it.
I think he's gonna get moved, and I think that he's gonna end up in Miami because that's where he said he wants to go, right? And even though he doesn't have a no trade clause like Bradley Bill, the team theoretically can send him wherever he wants to go, right? The issue is for Dame is whether or not he's gonna be the bad guy, and what I mean by that is that we all know how these reports leak out and stuff like that. So if a report leaks out that says you know, Portland and San Antonio, because San Antonio has they actually can make the best offer to
Hmm.
Portland because they don't one they're way under the salary cap, and so they don't have to package together a group of players to send Portland. They can send some players if Portland wants it, but they have a shit ton of picks. They're loaded with picks. Even after getting Wimby, they still have I think 3 or 4 first round picks, so they can send them mad picks to get Dame, which is probably what Portland wants, right? But that report leaks out. If Dame goes on his IG, his Twitter, whatever, and says, "I'm not playing in San Antonio," San Antonio ain't trading for him. You're not going to trade for a player that has $217 million left on their contract that says they're not playing for you. The same thing if
Hmm.
they try to send him to Philly or whatever. You know what I mean? So even though he doesn't have a no trade, he still has some say in what happens because he could go in public and say, "I'm not doing it." Whether he says it himself or he leaks it out through that guy Chris Haynes, who seems to be basically the Brian Windhorst of Damian Lillard's. So,
I
um,
don't see Dame doing that though.
I,
I
I don't
think
see him doing either. I'm just making a point to EJ when he's
yeah.
saying he doesn't think Miami has the assets or whatever. Is that Damian Lillard himself still has leverage in this
No,
in
I
this
didn't say
trade
Miami don't
scenario?
have the assets. I said y'all gonna
He's
have to
he
give
said
them up.
yeah, he said Pat's not going to want to do that.
Right. That well, I
Yeah,
mean that's because in order to make it work, we have to send them. We'd have to essentially almost gut the team because we don't have many picks.
Yeah.
that's what I
So we'd have
said.
we'd have to make it up with players or whatever. But at the end of the day, if he's not willing to go anywhere else, it may force Portland's hand to kind of take what they can get.
Yeah, I don't know that short of gutting the team, Miami can go get him. Um the one thing that makes things interesting is Portland going to be hard nosed about Eastern versus Western Conference, because if they do that, that changes things significantly. If they're okay and they're open, I could see a route of Dame Lillard playing for the fucking Lakers, Austin Reeves, a bunch of these young guys that they just signed. Lakers don't have many picks, but like I could see that happening. And that would be a wild ass super team. But I don't know, man. I think Philly's got a great chance, because I really don't think if I'm Portland, I'm not sending them to the Western Conference. The Western Conference is already tough. Like I'm not making any other team stronger. I'm not making my path harder to the promised land. I already got Denver to deal with. I got the Lakers who are tooling up. I got Houston who's gotten so much better through this fucking free agency. In addition to all their young talent and the draft, like the Western Conference it's back. It's gonna be like you know and then you still add Dallas to that, sprinkle some Memphis in there. Like the Western Conference is crazy. So if I'm them, I'm trying to send him somewhere in the East, let him go battle it out wherever. And I'm taking the best deal that I get. Right, whether he says he want to play there or not, and I do get your point, VP, of teams saying, "Oh, well, is he really going to play for us or what have you?" But if I'm another team, I'm also thinking he just sat and rotted in Portland. Like he's a loyal guy. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna be loyal, and if I can bring him in, if we can bring him in, and we can get some young guys, and then we can maybe attract another person. Like you talk about a team like Detroit, who's young and they got some decent. I mean, I don't see him being there, but teams like that, or even Indy, who's gotten a lot better through free agency, picking up a lot of players. They just signed Tyrese Halliburton. They picked up Obi Toppin, who may get a chance finally. Maybe you bring in some other talent there. I don't know that Dame lands there, but I'm just thinking the spots where maybe they have the money and the availability to go get a Dame and a second player, because we've heard PG is on the block. We've heard that Tobias Harris is on the block, right? Instead of just saying, man, that team is not already built, so Dame would never go there. Thinking of also teams that got the money, got the resources to say, we're going to go get Dame and we're going to go to another team. We're going to offer them whatever they want so we can pair him up with somebody and our young talent. The Magic come to mind as a team that can do that. They got a lot of young talent, tons of money, lots of picks. The problem is the fucking office is stupid, and they always have been. We've never had a good front office in Orlando. Ever, 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 ever. They're just
Yo,
absolute trash.
I agree with almost everything you said, Steve. And on the last point about Orlando, I've been surprised that you haven't heard Orlando in the mix in these Dame talks, given the amount of cap y'all have, the young
Mm-hmm.
assets y'all have, as well as y'all have. You know what I mean? Like I said, you hear San Antonio in the mix, and they don't have any assets; they just have picks.
Mm-hmm.
But Orlando has assets and picks, and you don't hear them being talked about. That's been amazing to me, and it might be a front office thing, like you just said. As far as Philly is concerned, I think Philly's problem is because it seems like Portland wants picks. It seems like they want picks more than players, almost, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And even though Philly can send over Maxi, even though they can send over the second coming of Michael Jordan, i.e. Tobias Harris, I don't know that they have any picks. You know what I'm saying? So
Here,
because
here,
I think they gave up everything to get Harden, did they not?
here's what I was gonna say to you before that in the leverage piece. If you're Philly, they probably got future picks and they probably can wrestle away whatever from somewhere, depending on how they move and shake. But here's the thing about the Lillard conversation, and Steve touched on it perfectly. If you get a guy like Dame, and even if at first glance, oh, he might not resign. Okay, we know Dame is gonna play for you that year. And the difference becomes if Dame comes to a Philly and they succeed and they do well, it's gonna be very hard pressed to look at a dude who hasn't won before to say, "Oh, you gonna leave after 1 year?" It's gonna be terrible. It's gonna be real tough for you to really look at him, for him to say and look at himself in the mirror and say, "I just reached the Eastern Conference Finals. I just reached the finals. I ain't going nowhere." Especially when you got a young Embiid there and the city of Philly gonna love you like the second coming to Allen Iverson. Even if he does walk, let's just say they don't get rid of Maxi and they've somehow been able to get rid of picks or get Portland picks in a three-way deal and they keep Maxi. Okay, you had Dame for 1 year. You went as far as you can go. Let's propel Maxi to the front and let's get some other assets around these guys that are much younger and much more cap friendly when our centerpiece is Embiid anyway. So I don't think Dame not guaranteeing the resign going forward is any reason for Philly to back down.
So when two things when I talk about Dame not wanting to play there at whatever city, I'm not talking about resigning. Dame has 4 years left on his contract. The point I'm making is that he has 4 years, 217 million remaining on his contract.
Mhm.
So if he says he doesn't want to play in a place, it might make a team say, I don't know if I can pull the trigger on
But
executing
who
this
has the
trade.
leverage in that?
Huh?
If Dame don't want to, if who has the leverage in that? They have you under contract.
Right. But at the end of the day, I mean, do I think Dame will sit out? No. Right. But
Right.
if you're the owner or the GM of a team, and it gets Windhorse or one of the ESPN guys, Woj or somebody reports, Philly and finalizing a deal that's going to send Dame to Philly, and Tobias Harris, Maxi, blah blah blah, blah, whatever the particulars are. And then Dame's come out on his social media and says, if they trade me to Philly, I'm not playing there. I'm not. It's not happening.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then they may say, yeah, I can't execute this trade because I don't talk
But
a
we know
Portland,
how
go
these
talk to your boy.
guys we know how these guys think. They think that they're the one that can make the difference. Hey, let's get Dame in front of us. Hey, let's remind Dame, you're under contract, my dude. I mean, at the end of the day, he's under the contract. Like, I mean, what what real choice does he have? Is he gonna retire?
Ben Simmons was under contract.
Ben Simmons ain't Dame.
I'm just making the point though.
Ben Simmons ain't Dame though.
Right, but I'm just making a
And
point that he was
and
under
then he was
contract.
injured. And then Ben Simmons was injured, just rotting on the bench. I mean, again, if you're Dame and you're in the twilight of your career where you haven't done a goddamn thing, and they pair you with Joel Embiid, and y'all, Joel Embiid made it how far, and you've been rotten in the Western Conference all this time. I'm just saying, and again with Dame, to Steve's other point, with all of these reports, it's all of these rumors and etc. I don't know that Dame has come out on his account and said, I only want to play for Miami. He's one of those guys that likes to play this game.
I mean,
No,
he
he has
probably
he hasn't said that. It's
he,
been
yeah,
Chris his Brian Windhorst, Chris Haynes
of
guy.
Dames. Yeah, I think the allegations is that that he has said that he wants to come to Miami. That he wants to come to Miami, right? Um, which I think Miami can make sense for him, right? Because listen, he lives in fucking Portland. Think about the difference in just your lifestyle living in Miami from Portland. It's the same effect that LeBron had going from Ohio to Miami. The same effect that Chris Bosh would have, even though Toronto's a party spot, but going from Toronto to Miami, maybe not as much, but from Portland to Miami, right? Just in the sense of now you're going to a place where you're going to get some good uh media coverage. You'll get some good media coverage. You're going to be able to have a good time for your family. Like all of that part when you're at 30 plus is the stuff that you should be thinking about as an athlete as well. LeBron going to the Lakers, right? And potentially ending in Los Angeles, sets his wife up, sets his sons up, all of that fun stuff. So I think Dame is thinking that when he said when you're allegedly hearing him say Miami, but also you got a team that just coming off the finals. You got a team that has a really 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 good GM. If you well, he's a GM, right? Pat's the GM, so
Yeah,
really
GM
good
and team president.
yeah, I was gonna say president, but yeah, GM. Um, you got a team that has a very serviceable coach, probably very marginal, middle of the road type guy. That can do some probably draw up some plays for you. Um, and you have a fairly decent nucleus, depending on how much they have to give up to get you. And then there's Jimmy Butler, right? You add that to the mix, like as a player and a good player, you have to sit down and love that guy's heart. You have to love the way he gets in front of the media. You got to love the fact that he's always saying, "Hey, we're going to win. We're going to get this done. We can get this done." Like he's grown into such a good leader in a Jimmy Butler, right? So I'm thinking that's part of it for Dame when you talk about Miami. But again, I still feel like this guy can land almost anywhere. And if I'm Portland, like we've done enough being just good enough to be talked about. Like I need something to where 3 years from now, or even 4 years, right? Because I would have Dame for 4 years. I need to see major success in this next 4 years out of the stuff that the moves that I make. And they've got some young guys over there. They got Anthony Anderson, I think his name is. Um, Another guard that they had a good draft. They drafted well this year. They would still have Nurkic. Like they're pretty damn good. On paper, you add a lot of draft capital and some good young guys, Tyler Hero and stuff like that, or where depending on where they come from. If I'm Portland, that's what I'm trying to do. Um,
And real quick, Steve, on that, the last thing I'll say on this real quick is that part of the reason why I say it seems like Portland's more concerned with picks versus assets and players is that yesterday I saw the report that I posted saying that one, any move that the Heat makes for Dame Lillard is going to be centered around Tyler Hero. Whether it's 3 players and some picks or 4 players and picks or whatever, Tyler Hero is going to be the centerpiece of that
mm,
deal. But the report goes on to say that Portland was already looking for a third team because apparently they want more picks because the Heat can't give them more than 2 first rounders. So they would have to find a third team to move Tyler Hero to create a third first round pick. And some people are talking about Brooklyn as being that team that Hero will ultimately end up with to secure Portland another third round pick. And then also don't forget the Heat also got that second rounder that they just picked up from Cleveland in the Max Drew signing trade. So you could see, where it's, two first and a second, and then also a third team comes in, whoever that may be, where they ship Hero to get that third first round pick.
See, and that's the other
So
thing about Miami that, sorry, AJ, I'll give it to you in a second, pause. The other thing about that you just said, VP, that stands out to me for Miami that's really challenging is it sucks that this kind of, for them, if you're a Heat fan, that this came out so late in the free agency process because they could have signed a Struce, they could have and kept him, they could have signed a Gabe and kept him and try to put some of those guys in the package and say, hey, here's some guys that got us where we were going, you know, you know. To Portland, that is, and we'll throw these guys in here with the picks and with the heroes and whatever. So, I think that's what makes it a little bit more challenging is they don't have those names for somebody to be like, oh, yeah, give me that guy.
right, yeah. Now I was just gonna say that Philly has a 2024 first rounder and a 2024 second rounder that they got from the Knicks. So they got a couple of picks to work with. I mean, ultimately, I could see VP. I could see this guy coming to Miami just off the strength that I believe that VP believes, and it's possible. Doesn't make sense is the thing, and I don't think it makes sense for either franchise unless Miami guts the team, and if they gut the team, essentially, you putting a lot of pressure on two sets of old legs where the bench is already thin now. So it's going to be interesting.
If I'm Portland, do I take Maxi Harris and three picks for Dame, or Maxi Harris and two picks for Dame?
Or Harden, you got to throw Harden in the mix too.
Well, I think if I'm Philly, I'm trying to keep Harden there. I'm trying to build a Harden, Dame, and Embiid team. If I make that trade, I'm not trying to give Harden up in that trade.
I if I'm Portland, I don't want hard since I'm trying to build
And that,
team. I'm trying to build something, and I don't think hard like you know Russell Westbrook being called a cancer to locker rooms, I think was a bit overstated. I don't even think Harden is a cancer, but the guy he's not who he was, and
it's
and
older.
I think that we in talking head types have to get over that. You know what I mean? Like it's hard. It's almost the same like we talk about LeBron, right? Can LeBron go out and get you 40 a 40-point monster game when like it's needed? It has to happen in order to make the playoffs or to clinch this series. Sure. Can he go out there and do that multiple times? No, he's just not that guy anymore. And if you're trying to build a young up and coming team, I don't think Harden's a guy you want in your locker room. But with that being said, though, y'all, I have a little bit of question sticking on the free agency. I don't know if you guys remember the last CBA when the owners and the players were talking, trying to get together the new collective bargaining agreement. And just like every collective bargaining agreement, the owners talk about how impoverished they are and how they barely can feed their kids, and they're just 2 days removed from maybe having to apply for food stamps, and
Well,
then free agency happens,
hopefully they don't have student loans because
and then free agency happens, and I'm seeing Tyrese Halliburton get a $260 million contract.
1.2 billion dollars spent on the first day of free agency.
Wow.
One
well,
point two billion.
I think also, so we think about that, but also think about that money. It's business money. That's business money. When you hear the owners talking, they're talking about their personal lives and stuff like that. And I don't believe. Listen, none of us believe that. I don't think anybody believes that an owner is struggling. Like we see Mark Cuban, like we see
Right.
him in. And granted, he's probably a
Ballmer.
little. Yeah, we see some of these guys. So I'm not, but yeah, I get your point. I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But these. It seems like these contracts are crazy. Inflation hit free agency.
Yeah.
Halliburton 260. that's a max, isn't it?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would
that's a
think
max.
so.
So Halliburton got a max.
To play in
Lamelo
Indiana, I don't think anybody should get 260 million to play in Indiana.
Lamelo got a well. That's the problem with Indiana. Indiana's historically thrown their money away on guys who are not the guy to get you there, like like Paul George. Like Paul George would get you just far enough, but LeBron was always his dad. Um, but you know, Danny Granger's of the world, and what was it, Roy Hibbert's of the world. Like Indies never really made great decisions with where they spent their money, and yet again, Obi Toppin they just got from the Knicks is money that's spent. To me, I don't think again is not going to do it. Halliburton, and then Indy just brought somebody else in too. I forget exactly who it was. Oh, didn't they sign somebody from the Heat?
Um, I have to look real quick.
Well,
Mhm.
nonetheless, they're just not a team that to me makes good decisions. But we're talking about max deals. Like LaMelo Ball got a max deal, and that makes sense to me. Like for Charlotte, I'm getting this guy who's young, who when he was healthy, and if he can stay healthy, um, looks like he can be an all-star, no question, an MVP's MVP caliber talent. He can make plays, he can score, he can do a little bit of everything. The only thing he needs some help with is defense, of course. So that makes sense. We saw there was another max deal. I'm missing one. Um,
Van Fred Van Fleet.
oh no, he didn't get a max, did he?
That
It's a
wasn't a
big,
max.
it's a big deal. No, because he can't get the. Oh, it might have been a max. I'm thinking super max. Van Fleet went to Houston. Yes,
Houston.
Houston. Man, Houston. Houston doing some things over there, man.
Mhm. With
Yeah,
Ime Udoka. Yep.
Houston is doing some things over
he
there,
got. I think that's a. I mean, yes, it's a max. I'm looking at it here. 3 years, 130 million max. Houston. It says here on the tracker.
man. That team. They got. They still got them young boys. Kevin Porter over there. Jalen Green. Now you throw in Van Fleet. They're guard heavy, man. That team is. Oof. Jay Sean Tate. Kid is nice. Listen, man.
Yeah, and I
Houston
mean
ain't dumping
The
no
West of
slouch.
me, they went 22 and what 60 last year. I mean, they've improved the roster. You already know they got a coach that knows what he's doing. So I mean, all they got to do is be a mid, low playoff end to mid, and that's a success for them. It's trending up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
NBA is a joke.
Oh, and Sabonis. Sabonis just got paid. I think he just got a
yeah,
max also.
he
That's the
did. He
one.
Mhm.
got a $217 million deal, 5 year, 217.
That and
Oof.
that and I think that shakes up the market too because I know big men are at a premium, but he ain't that good. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm Mitchell Robinson, and I love Mitchell Robinson because he's a Nick, but also because the potential that he has. He has an offensive game, but the head coach that we have obviously can't get anything offensively out of anyone that's in a New York uniform. If I'm him, I'm pissed off because I'm looking at it like, yo, when I went head to head with this guy, I've outplayed him to some degree, and he just got that kind of money. That shit gonna shake up the market, man. It
Nobody,
ain't many big
nobody,
men out here.
nobody in the world thinks Mitchell Robinson is as good as Sabonis,
I'm
based on
I'm
head
just
to head
telling
or
I'm
anything.
I'm just telling you, bro. I'm just telling you what these players are thinking. And again, it's easy to say that when you watching the Knicks play, but you got to remember, this is the same dude. Tom Thibodeau is this dude that refused to play Emmanuel quickly, right? And then when he had no choice, this dude gets on in the court and goes unconscious for like 7, 8 games, and people are looking like, yo, he could do this, and it's all because they don't flourish under Tom Thibodeau. I'm not disagreeing with you in saying that based on what we've seen thus far, but I'm saying that this coach stunts his players. It's historically proven. He couldn't do shit with Jimmy and Big Cat. Couldn't do
Yeah,
nothing.
I agree, Steve, that I don't think anybody thinks that Thompson is as good as Sabonis, but I think EJ has a point in saying that some of these guys are looking at these contracts, and maybe Mitchell Robinson is not saying I should get paid 200 million when I'm due, But maybe he might, if the Knicks are saying, yo, look, we're gonna give you a 4 year,
You
$40
just
million
re-signed him
extension,
recently.
and he's like, nah, you got me fucked up. You know what I'm saying? So,
And I
and so
mean,
I
he's a
think,
young big man. I mean, how many?
right.
We don't. It's not
No,
many across
and
the
the
league.
fact that he is a big man, it makes a point, right? It's kind of like with Gabe Vincent, right? The Heat offered Gabe Vincent, 3 years. I don't know. I think it was like 23 million or something like that. It was something like just under 8 million a year. And Gabe Vincent's like, hell no, because he had 11 million a year sitting out there with the Lakers. So I think these guys are looking like, you know, like Steve said, inflation's up. These contracts are loading, and I'm not gonna pay for pennies on the dollar. Fuck loyalty. You drafted me, you, but I'm trying to get paid. You know.
Mitchell
Mm,
Robinson, we signed him for 4 years, 60 million.
yeah. So what? 15 a year
Yeah.
versus a bonus getting what do you get? 30 a year
This is what
almost.
I'm saying.
It's like
I
30.
mean, at some point, right? If I'm an athlete, I think I'm the best. Again, you could agree or disagree. And what my point is, we haven't seen Mitchell Robinson have any ability to do anything because of the systems he's in. Not saying he's all world, but again, if I'm him and I'm looking at it and I'm like, yo, I've played this dude, I've done this against this dude. You mean to tell me, you know what I mean? I mean, this is how they think. This is how
They
they
better
Yeah.
think.
stop thinking like that. You ain't gonna have a job, nigga. Tyrese Halliburton got 260. Desmond Bain got 207 in Memphis. Memphis about to run out of money
Yeah,
because
man. Like shit.
or
Well,
they're gonna have to
you know
they're
how
gonna
they
have to
doing
make
it.
some decisions.
Memphis can afford to pay these guys because they're using the money they're not paying Ja for all them suspensions.
Exactly. Because they're gonna have to pay Jaren Jackson too.
They're like,
Like,
shit, we get to keep Ja on the roster and get 6 more max contracts.
yeah, Memphis about to run out of money, man.
They looking at
Um,
it. They must be looking at it like their window of success is pretty small.
that's exactly how they're looking at
Yeah.
it. And Desmond Bain is nice. Don't
But
get
but
me
look,
wrong.
like Steve said, the West, right? I mean, like the West is starting to look like the old, Kobe, Dirk, Tim Duncan West, where, like, I mean, I remember, watching, ESPN and them basically saying, I don't think any team in the East can beat the West 1 through 8. It ain't like that no more. I mean, the East has come up as well. You know what I mean? But like the West is loaded. So if you're a Memphis, you have to be looking at a team, especially like Denver, saying, yo, these dudes went in the draft, they found their guy, they built around him, and they just got it done. And they're only gonna get better. The Lakers have gotten better. Houston is tooling up. San Antonio just drafted this guy number one. We don't know what he is, but they are attempting to tool up. They got a shit ton of picks. Yeah, we don't got to worry about them this season, but 2 seasons from now, they could beat them dudes. And all these other teams are basically just
Sacramento.
tooling up, and you can't be idle. And that kind of goes to Steve's point about Orlando when he says, like, what the fuck are they doing? Because it's like you're loaded with money, you're loaded with picks, and you're watching teams around you tool up, and you appear to be doing nothing.
Absolutely nothing. But I think Memphis has lived their marginal life long enough, and so they're like this, like your point. This is an opportunity. EJ's point is like, listen, the window is getting smaller. Opportunities knocking. They probably feel like if Ja didn't do some bullshit, they might have done better this year. And even the coming year. So,
Mhm.
they did that. Sacramento, of course, we just talked about Sabonis. Portland extended Jeremy Grant 5 years, 160. Van Fleet max contract to
Houston.
to Houston. We just talked about Kyrie just got paid 3 years, 126. Good lord, Dallas. Damn, what is that? 42 a
40.
year? My
No, 40,
lord,
43.
43
No,
a
no,
year.
40. Yeah, 42. My bad. 42. Sorry. You're right. 42.
Man, they not gonna have no money to bring nobody to help him and Luca.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Cam Johnson to the Nets, 108 million. Chris Middleton stays in Milwaukee, 3 years, 102 million, and according to EJ, he should have probably only gotten 16 million
Nah,
over
that ain't
eight
what I said.
years.
That ain't
According
what
to
I
EJ,
said.
Middleton should be like on the veteran
Right,
minimum.
right. Middleton should be on the minimum, but Mitchell Robinson should get a super max deal for
Listen,
the remainder of his
listen.
career.
Chris Middleton again. He's in Portland with Dame, couldn't do nothing. Comes over to Milwaukee with the best player in the league, disappears, hurt, disappears. He's overrated, man. He's overrated and ugly.
You know, another another team I would expect to maybe try and get in the Dame sweepstakes and probably lose would be the Wizards. You bring Kuzma and I mean they just paid Kuzma, right? 102 million.
Hmm.
You add to that mix with Dame, and who's the other light skin over there?
In
Didn't
Houston.
Jordan Poole.
and Jordan Poole. A little something there. Draymond Green ended up getting 100 million over 4 years.
Yeah.
That's wild. They must really. We talked about it last week. They think that he's the glue.
Mm-hmm.
They think he's the glue. Russell
Absolutely.
Westbrook. Russell Westbrook humbled himself. two
What was
years,
he
eight
doing? What is
million.
he doing? Like you couldn't get more than that. Nowhere.
He could get
Yeah,
more
that
than
that
that.
was surprising to me, man. That surprising on the verge. I don't even can't say on the verge. Disrespectful, yo. Like
I
this
think
dude
he.
is
No,
a hell
no.
of a player, man. Eight
I,
million.
I think he did that because he's like, all right, I'm gonna do this to free up the money for us to go get another player. Could Westbrook get money elsewhere? Absolutely. Orlando, for one, I'm sure would have paid him. But you know what I mean? There's other teams that will pay him, even good teams that will pay him.
But think about
Um,
this though, Steve. Right? You're Golden State. You just traded for fucking Chris Paul, who you got to pay $25 million when you could have got Westbrook for 8 million.
Yeah, I'm lost.
maybe Westbrook wasn't on the block.
He was a free agent.
Oh, you're right. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, I'm lost. I'm lost.
Yeah.
That Russell Westbrook is an enigma in more ways than one. I don't get it.
Well, you never know too. I mean, it's LA, right? Like
I think
there's
he's
a
from there too.
He's
yeah,
from
there's a
LA.
If I, oh yeah,
yeah, there's a lot going on that I think Westbrook is probably putting his family first right now. Um, you know, I think that 8 million contract. I think there's some smoke and mirrors there where people are thinking, oh, Westbrook's towards the end of his life and type shit. But I don't think that's what we're seeing. I think we're seeing more to it there. Um, Austin Reeves 56 million and to stay with the Lakers. Brooke Lopez 2 years to stay with the Bucks. He was rumored to be talking to the Lakers. D'Angelo Russell staying with the Lakers 2 year, 37 million. I think they kind of overpaid for him for a guy that disappeared in late in the playoffs.
yeah.
Rui got 51 million over 3 years. I like that for the Lakers. Jacob Podol 4 years, 80 million to stay in Toronto.
Who?
Karis, the big man. That's probably more of a Mitchell Robinson deal, which I think that's about what you guys gave him, right? No, you
Yeah,
gave him 15,
he's at 4
60.
and 60.
Yeah, I think he probably should be getting that 80 or looking at 100 or so. Um, Karis LeVert 32 over 2. I like him for Cleveland. Watch Cleveland too.
Yeah,
Trey Jones, 20 million over 2 years with San Antonio. Herb Jones. This is where it starts to get to the nobodies. Vucevic, 3 years to stay with the Bulls. I don't know if I would have done that if I'm him. If I'm him, I would like to have seen him like with the Clippers. Because I think the Clippers, if they could have brought him in and kept Westbrook, PG, and Kawhi, I mean, the key there is getting these guys to play, man. Like they got to be on the court.
yeah.
EJ says it all the time about them. Um,
Don't play.
Nasri. See any other notable names here?
If you scroll
Oh,
down a little bit, Steve, you can go to where it shows the new teams and you see people who going to new franchises. Got
oh,
some
there you
names
go.
on
You
there
got the
too.
Magic. They made a move. They paid 16 million 2 years for Moritz Wagner. That's right. Moritz Wagner for the Magic. All right. Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks.
80
Oh,
million,
Houston?
Dylan Brooks.
Houston?
Houston
Yo,
paid 80
Houston,
million
we
for
have a
him.
problem, yo. They
big
not
facts.
playing. They not
Yo,
playing, yo.
Yeah, I mean, like You could have signed PJ Tucker for 10 million and got the
All
same
right,
guy.
stop with the PJ Tucker stuff,
Yeah,
Var.
that's
Cut the
a
shit.
little overboard.
Cut the shit.
Yo,
Um,
Dylan Brooks with Ime Udoka. That's Ime not gonna be playing that dumb shit. He gonna sit him down, smack him up,
or or
or he
he
gonna
might
tell him
play.
get.
He might
He
play
gonna tell
that
him
dumb
do it.
shit.
Yeah, I
He
mean
might be like,
he's a good defensive player outside. I mean, what did he do outside of hitting
Ran his
LeBron
mouth.
in the
I
nuts?
mean, he could
That was
shoot.
it.
Yeah, he didn't do. I mean, talk shit. He said, "I'm better than LeBron," which you should
You
feel that
supposed
way.
to say that.
Is it true? No, absolutely not. I mean, you're not even a shell of LeBron. I think you're better than LeBron has ever been, from the time he started playing basketball. Um, but
In high
yeah,
school.
but it's very possible that Dylan Brooks, they might, he might be okay with that. He might be like, "Yo, we got all these young guys over here. You're gonna be the veteran. We need some veteran leadership, but we also need, a little spark." I don't know if I would have if he's a 20 million a year guy though. Dylan Brooks don't look like a 20 million a
He's
year
a
guy.
permit. You got to look at it too, though. To be honest, even though LeBron gave him work, we've said this before. It was LeBron. This guy is a perimeter wing defender, which
Hmm.
Miami will tell you they
And he
needed
could
that
shoot.
this
And he could
past
shoot.
series.
Yeah,
Them boys come at a premium right now.
20 still 20 still high
It's
though.
just a bit high for me.
Yeah, I would say maybe 60, giving him 15 a year. Like, all right, Max Struess, sign and trade with Cleveland, 4 years, 63 million.
That deal
Uh
shocked me.
that's a high
I
deal too.
yeah, I didn't think Max Struess was 15 a year type of guy. Like 10 to 12, okay,
12 a year.
And that's why Dylan Brooks
but
got 20.
Yep. I think when you talk, well, here's another one. The Knicks 4 years for
12-5.
DiVincenzo for
12-5.
50 million for a shooter.
12-5. That's it. That's it. 12-5. It ain't too
That's-
bad.
mm. So DiVincenzo. All right, so let's put this into perspective. Gabe Vincent got 11. DiVincenzo got 12. 5. Is DiVincenzo the better of those two? Do you guys feel like he's a million and a half better a year than
Then
Gabe Vincent?
Struess or Gabe
No, than
yeah,
Vincent.
you talking
Vincent.
about Gabe Vincent? I don't think so.
I mean, you can argue he is, but I mean, again, he was in Golden State where he was he was set to do certain things. But
I like
you paying him
DiVincenzo, man. I liked him when he was with Milwaukee. I like him with Golden State. 50 million deal, man. I don't know if he's that guy. I mean, I guess is he going to start for the Knicks? Like, am I giving
he,
50 million to a guy that's not going to start?
he might. He might. I mean, who
Mm.
knows what the fuck Tom Thibodeau's gonna do?
Seth Curry staying. Oh no, Seth Curry's going to the Mavericks.
I mean, I don't care what I don't listen. I got to get on a 2-minute rant. I don't care what the New York Knicks are gonna do until they fire Tom Thibodeau. Nothing they do matters. Nothing.
Mm.
I sit here and I look at Knicks fans shoot this guy bail, right? And there was a guy last night that called Knicks fan TV about 1 a.m. They were up late, and he went on a rant and he said, "Yo, Tom Thibodeau, everywhere he's been, it's the same story. He takes a bad team, makes them mediocre. They reach the playoffs, they do okay, and then something catastrophic happens, and he loses his job. It happened in Chicago, it happened in Minnesota. This dude is not a head coach. He's a career assistant, and
Well, the
some
Knicks
people that's just what it is.
would the Knicks have done better if what's his face was if your boy wasn't hurt?
Who? Julius?
Um,
Julius Randle.
Julius.
Mm, I mean, again, Julius Randle, I think, can be a good player. He could be a premier guy, but again, it all depends on how you're coaching him. If he's healthy, and he's playing, but he's dribbling 60 times, acting like he's Kobe, you're not gonna
But
win.
y'all went to 7, right? Lakers, or I'm
6.
sorry. Yeah, went 6. D- do you think that series goes 7, or the Knicks have a better chance of winning that if Julius Randle was healthy?
No,
We definitely have a better chance on paper,
no.
but again, it's the what Julius Randle are you getting?
The reason why I say no is that you in that same hypothetical you have to say if Jimmy doesn't get hurt, because if Jimmy doesn't get hurt, I think we probably sweep the Knicks because I don't think we lose game two.
It's
I
very
mean, we
possible
lost
as
there by
well.
like 3 points with no Jimmy Butler.
Very possible as well.
Yeah, but they also had an injured. I mean, when you're talking now, you're kind of evening the odds because they had Julius Randle who was hurt. So I don't know, man. I just all I'm saying is Tom Thibodeau. Is he a great coach? No. Is he a Popovich?
Come on,
Absolutely
stop it,
not. Right.
stop it, stop
But
it.
is
This
he
guy is a
is
career
he the
assistant.
reason for the Knicks not winning? I don't think so.
He is the
I don't think
reason why every time we reach the playoffs, right? We got past Cleveland, and that was just sheer us outplaying them, just dog, just backyard basketball. There
no
was no
coaching on that.
coaching involved. No,
Stop.
not at all,
Stop.
because we run
Stop.
the same.
This nigga's
We
crazy.
okay. You always like shooting these old crusty dudes bail. The Knicks
But EJ,
offensively,
I
hold
get
up.
your point about coach.
The Knicks offensively ISO the ball more than any team in the league. We literally have no offensive progression. It's horrible. You can't win basketball like that.
Boston
You,
plays the same game. That's a
no,
young coach, young
no,
black coach at that.
no one ISOs and holds the ball more than the New York Knicks. And okay, Boston could do that. They supposedly on paper have two of the biggest young superstars. We don't have that. What are we
But
talking about?
also, I mean, but Steve, to EJ's point, right? Running that ISO, you look what happens when you play against a team that's a little bit of a better defender, right? So, like I mean, like think about that, right? Running the ISO versus like running set plays. Once the Heat get to the finals, they play Denver. Denver says, "Okay, no problem. The Heat, they're a small team, we're big. So Gabe Vincent again, whoever Gabe Vincent's guarding, he's being switched on to Aaron Gordon." I'm yelling at my TV night and like, why the fuck is Gabe Vincent guarding Aaron Gordon? Like, do something about these switches. You know what I mean? But that's just coaching, And if you got guys who are just running ISO, you're not going to take advantage of matchups.
Spoelstra, they said something like Spoelstra said to Miami in the Knicks series, shut down this half of the court and it's over. Just listen to me. Just shut it down. It's done. And that's what happened. Jalen Brunson goes out there, gives you 35 on a will, sheer will, and no one else can score. It's not by accident,
But
man.
Thibodeau doesn't stop those guys from scoring. You got guys that disappeared. You said Thibodeau doesn't play quickly, and then when quickly gets in the game, he ain't do shit.
He also
Absolute
But
got
trash.
hurt.
Steve, you also had Obi Toppin comes in the game. I think it was game 3. The boy is cooking. And then the Heat call a timeout after Obi Toppin hits a 3, and then Tibbs sit him down.
Thank you, Vari.
Yeah, I
Thank
mean
you,
you're gonna have those one-off
thank you. No,
situations,
no,
but
no,
to
no, no.
say,
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you,
but to
Vari. Thank
but
you,
I'm
because
saying,
it
see,
happened
you're the
all
coach.
year. It's
You're the
happened
coach.
all year.
You the coach. You put a guy in, and
He
you go
gets you
on. I
8
think they.
points in 2 minutes.
I think they went on
Gave
a
him 8 points in 2 minutes.
They went on a 14-2 run, and 8 of those points were from Obi. And he's all right. It's time to sit this guy down.
yeah, it's a
The
bad
fuck are you
decision.
doing? And then in the first, what was it, first game, Jalen Brunson's on the bench to about 4 minutes into the fourth quarter. What the fuck is he doing?
Reports are he
Stop
was
it.
injured though, EJ. I'll
Right.
shoot
I
him a
was
little
gonna
bit.
Yeah,
say.
but
I was gonna say you can't always.
he
You
sits him
can't
he
look
sits
at
him to
someone,
he
but you
sits him
can't
to
always
4
look
minutes
at.
in the fourth
You can't
quarter,
always look at. You
and
can't
then he
always look
runs
at
him 40
somebody.
minutes the next game.
Right,
Get the
but
fuck
but
out of here,
but
man.
Vari asked the same question about Robert Williams, and Robert Williams just can't play like that. At some point,
He was
the
reported
coach.
injured. There has been no official reports since the series that he was injured. No reports, none.
So you
There,
saying Tibbs made it up to not look bad?
there was
Yep,
plenty of reports that he was injured.
yep.
There was a report that his ankle was hurt. Come on, man. Listen, I'm not. By like I said,
Shoot,
Thibodeau's
man,
not a great
fuck out of here.
coach. He's not a
It's
great
horrible.
coach. But to blame him and
Send
say
him to
he is the
Orlando.
absolute reason
Send
that the
Tibbs to
Knicks
Orlando.
lost, no, you got guys that aren't performing. Like I can
Send
only
Tibbs to
do but so
Orlando.
much as a coach, and
Send
and and
Tibbs to
then it's
Orlando.
not like the rest of the team is good. Like
Send
all right,
Tibbs to Orlando. Just send him
if
to Orlando.
if Julius Randle's not performing, right, and you got Brunson giving you 30, who's your second option? Because uh the little small forward nigga that y'all brought in, I'm sorry, but he's on bust alert. Uh,
Listen, listen
what's his name?
again.
I don't
Listen
even know his
again.
name.
You talking
To
about RJ
VP's,
Barrett?
he's
RJ Barrett is on
to
bust alert.
VP's point. Once again, I don't give a shit who's out there, right? You I don't give a shit who's out there. If it's working, you don't fuck it up. And that's just shit that he's been doing year round, and that's what he does. He's not a good coach. He's not. The NBA and people need to stop giving the D'Antonis, the fucking Thibodeaux, stop giving these people bail because they've been around in the league. They ain't been doing shit. It's just what it
And
is.
and to EJ's point, right? When that's how Strus started playing for us. Somebody got in foul trouble. Spo had to go deep in the bench. He put in Strus. The boys started cooking, and he left his ass out there. So,
But
and the next thing you know, he's in the rotation.
Yeah, but
let
Vari,
Steve tell it. He's a video
you also have
analyst,
to
but Thibodeau's
you
a
also
good coach.
he is. You also have to remember that Miami didn't have nobody else. Like when you have no choice, then you got to do what you got to do.
We
But
didn't have anybody else.
nonetheless, here's the final thing that I'll say on this because Thibodeau is not going to kidnap the rest of this podcast.
You don't want shooting them bail.
Tom Thibodeau gets no credit for beating Cleveland, who was a favorite to win the East, but he gets all the blame for losing to Miami, which is the team that ended up being the best team in the East. That's all I want to just leave out there. Just leave that on the table.
Second best team
Um,
in the NBA.
You take him in Orlando.
I'll take him in Orlando. Who's my coach right now?
I
Who
don't
have
need
I
a
had
coach.
for the last 5 years? I'll take Thibodeau today.
You need,
Today.
you don't need a coach, Steve. A new owner because that guy. I don't even know his name. He
Well,
he.
we've gone through three different front offices since I've lived here, and I've lived here for 12, no, a little more than that, about 18 years.
15. I'm
Three
about to
different
say
front
more than
offices.
gotta be
We brought
15.
that young kid in from OKC. There he was like, oh, he's progressive. Yeah, trash. You know,
Y'all need to pull a Miami like Pat Riley
get a
from the Knicks
get an
kind of deal.
analyst, right? We don't
Like
need a
no,
coach.
I'm
We need
saying
a
like
video analyst.
So disrespectful.
identify a guy that you want, overpay him to leave where he's at, and then give him carte blanche.
Nah, it's too late, right?
Yeah, no. Brand new stadium. Come on, man. That
Stadium
shit
is
gets
nice.
that shit gets more it's had more concerts than it's had playoff
Yeah,
games.
I
That's why
never
they
I
built
never
it.
went to the old stadium, so I can't compare it. But I've
Oh,
been
the
to the
old
new one, and it's
stadium. Yo, the old stadium was a shit show. Imagine like living in a one bedroom apartment where the heat maybe worked here and there. AC, you put the window unit in, but it leaked inside and your carpet got wet, and so when you walk in it smells like wet carpet. That was the old stadium. The old
mm,
stadium didn't have AC. Put
wow.
it that way. Like the previous stadium did not have AC. Like when I went to those playoff games when Turkaloo and them were there, you be in there drenched, sweating, yo. Shit was bad. Oh, she was bad.
Yeah, the stadium is
Uh,
nice. I definitely give. Actually, you know what, Steve?
Here we go.
No, I haven't been to the old stadium. No, I haven't. I was gonna say
Yeah,
I went to the circus that came to town and I went, but I think that was in a new stadium too.
yeah, yeah. No, that shit's. That shit was a that shit was a shit show. Now it was kind of dope because it was like a historic. When you went in there, you felt like the media. There was no media section,
Mm.
right? So where I was sitting behind the bucket, like I would always get my tickets behind the basket because they were cheaper. Until the playoffs, I always sat like up top and behind the bucket, like maybe 2 to 3 rows. The media was sitting behind us, so I could hear them while I was sitting there. Like it was, I'm telling you, the shit was like it was like a 1960s porno versus like OnlyFans today. Like that's
Damn.
comparing those two stadiums. It was crazy.
I like the vintage.
I know you do.
the,
Jigga. Look at that afro, not the one on her
the
head.
vintage ink. They don't take too long, man.
All right.
Nope.
What y'all been watching?
For me, man, I again, we didn't get to spend too much time on last week. I checked out EJ's Oscar-nominated film Flaming Hot.
Yo, you already talked about this. No reason to
And
go
then,
back to this.
Yo,
And then
Speaking of which, EJ don't even get a bingeable segment this week just for telling
All
us
right,
to watch.
I'm logging off. All right.
I see what you did. He was like, since I had to sit through this trash, I'm gonna make somebody else deal with it.
and I've been
Uh,
checking out Outlander, which is a show me and my wife watch. That it just came back, only 3 episodes into the new season. And then I've been watching the show Steve recommended, Idol or The Idol, whatever it's called, on HBO, as
HBO.
well as Righteous Gemstones, which is another HBO show. It's a comedy with Danny McBride. This is like season 3. This is very funny. I love it.
Oh, it's back.
Yeah, the Idol show, man. Like, I don't like has the Weeknd acted before? Like, was he an
Yeah,
actor before he started singing? Because
the
he
week,
plays that part very well. He's like a fucking he
or
seems like a real
maybe,
scumbag.
or maybe he's just that kind of scumbag in real life. Maybe he's not
Maybe.
acting. Cause yo, I was watching. I was like, yo, there's no Denzel Washington couldn't capture this character better.
Yeah, man. God damn.
Like I would like if I had to take the Weeknd's character and put it into like a person, it would be EJ. Like I can see EJ. Wait till you watch it. You're gonna be like, okay.
no, no,
That's why he don't dabble
no,
in the bunnies.
no. We've had this conversation, but it's irrelevant now.
Yeah, so
It's
that's
irrelevant
been
now.
really fun.
Nasty
Alright.
work.
I'm gonna be starting
Nasty work.
Secret Invasion as well on Disney Plus, the Marvel
Oh,
drama with Sam Jackson.
Oh,
that's
I do gotta
amazing.
start that. So
That's
fuck
amazing.
Ted Lasso then, huh? We're gonna watch Frito Lay's, but we're not gonna watch Ted Lasso. I got you, VP. I see where we're at right now.
It's on the list.
You over here watching
Oh,
movies about
sorry,
potato
one other thing.
chips.
I've been watching Black Mirror too. The new season of Black Mirror is back.
Oh,
I
That
finished
shit,
that already.
that shit
There's
is
only 6
overrated.
episodes.
I can't get into it.
it was only 6 episodes.
Yeah, each season, like I told you, the episodes are the seasons vary. So like the first season's like 4 episodes, second season's like 3, and then the
And they
next
don't run
season's like
together,
8.
right?
No, they don't. They don't like they're not connected in any way. The only connection they have is that sometimes the like there'll be stuff in the background that references something that happened in a previous episode, but they're not connected in any way. It's just kind of to, I guess, to say like these things are in the same universe. Like all this stuff is happening on the same planet, but they're not.
Got
The
you.
events aren't connected in any way.
Got you. EJ, you started I saw you posted about Samuel Jackson, so you started that
Yeah,
series, right?
I've been watching Secret Invasion every week, man, and I think it's gonna be the second best, if not the best, small screen series that Marvel's had to date. With the other one being Captain America and the Winter Soldier. But the acting, man, Sam Jackson just doesn't miss, and the show and what they're doing, it's similar to the comic, which I didn't think they would go that route because it's so difficult, because the scroll comic timeline is just so much that happens. But to be cramming this all into 6 episodes, they're doing a pretty damn good job, and it's pretty good. I like it, man. It's pretty good. A lot of Easter eggs. I mean, a lot of Easter eggs. Like, it's pretty incredible so far.
Sam
But
Jackson or Lawrence Fishburne?
mm,
And Denzel, don't miss.
But who you got between Sam Jackson and Lawrence Fishburne? If
Sam
you took
Jackson for
those,
sure. Sam
that's tough,
Jackson.
man. Like my instinct is to say Sam Jackson, but I mean, I recently rewatched
The
What's
Matrix.
Love Got to Do with It after Tina died, and
Mhm.
man, god damn.
I mean,
Like you
I
think
mean,
about it now, like
SWAT.
most people probably don't even know what the real Ike Turner looks like,
right?
because
They don't.
like Ike Turner is Lawrence Fishburne.
Yep.
That's a good
You know
point.
what I mean?
Yep. Yep. It's like, yeah, it's iconic role, but for the worst type. But I mean,
Oh, no doubt, for the
when you
worst
look
thing.
when you look at Sam Jackson's just body of work, right? First of all, he's the highest paid actor of all time because he's been in the most roles probably of all time. But he just doesn't miss, man. From The Long Kiss Goodnight to Juice I mean, the dude has never been. I've never seen him in a
Snakes on a
role I've been like,
Plane.
Yeah,
Even that, even that,
that was
Stop.
terrible.
Stop.
even in
Come on
Now
now.
Snakes
you
on a Plane, he was the main reason people watched it.
for one line. That's it. People
Even
just
in
watch it to hear that one line.
even what was that joint with the sharks? I mean, it's just again,
Oh, Deep Blue Sea.
Now Lawrence Fishburne have been in some bullshit too.
That's
He,
true.
No,
he
but
done been in some
I don't think
bullshit
Steve
too.
is talking about necessarily bullshit. I think he's just saying like who's the better actor or what you
Yeah,
know.
no, I get it. And I got Sam Jackson. I mean, I got Sam Jackson. They both phenomenal guys, both phenomenal actors.
No, great. Yeah, two great actors. I just, you said Lawrence, you said Sam don't miss. So I was just,
He's had
thinking
some misses because
Sam or
the plane was
Lawrence.
trash.
Lawrence,
I only saw it because Sam Jackson was in it, and then I'm like, the fuck did I just
Which
watch?
one?
King of New York,
Snakes.
man. Like, listen, man.
King, King I ain't
I
gonna
don't
say
know,
black.
bruh.
King of New York. King of New York. If you take yourself, when was the last time you watched it? Let me ask you that.
It's been a while for me.
Like 7, 10 years ago.
Right. So if you watch it again today, because it's one of those films I just watched like this time last year, and I was like, yo, this shit didn't age too well, yo. I mean, I was like, yo, the acting was like, it was a lot of overacting. Like, yo, I'm gonna take my fucking chicken wings. I was like, come on, bro. This shit just was like, it was kind of over the top at sometimes, yo. It's one of them joints that it's a classic, but it didn't age well, yo. Like New Jack City, that shit aged perfectly. You know what I'm saying? King of New York, I don't know that it aged well, yo. I'm just saying.
What else you been watching?
Jack Ryan came back, final season.
That's on
First,
Amazon, right?
yep,
Yeah,
first
Amazon.
2 episodes, fire. First
I got
two
that on my
episodes,
list too.
getting right to the shits. Um, on FX, I've been watching The Bear. I don't know if y'all ever got into that, but that's
I
Nah,
saw that, but I didn't
I've been
watch it.
seeing it trending, but I haven't watched it.
yeah,
I
the
haven't even
whole
seen a trailer for it. I just seen it trending.
What's it
yeah, the
about?
whole it basically a restaurant in Chicago. My guy, what's his name? Not Frillo, but the guy that plays the Punisher, that John Barenthal. He had a restaurant, and then something happens to him. Now his little brother, who was like this 5-star or 1-star chef, comes back and tries to take over the business, and it's just like a dysfunctional ass comedy drama. It's got pretty good acting and themes, so it's one of those. It's one of those. Um, and then the Mayans. I've been watching the Mayans. I haven't been happy with this season
Yeah,
up
they lost
until
me.
this past episode. This past episode was getting to the shits, but I don't know where it's gonna go though after that. So
Yo, real quick before you do yours, Steve, EJ, I read something saying that Amazon is gonna bring that show Citadel back for season 2, and the
I still
reason
watching
why,
it.
yeah, that shit was trash. The reason why is that apparently that first season cost them $300 million. So they're
Jeez.
like, y'all watching another season of this shit.
Jesus
Yo,
Christ. Jesus Christ. Yeah,
That shit probably
I
gonna be
stopped watching
mandatory
it.
on Prime. Like you log into Prime, that shit episode 1 pops up.
Yeah,
right.
I stopped watching it. I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it.
They might give it
Horrible.
to you for free. Um. All right. I've been watching, of course, Ted Lasso, talking about that continuously. I haven't finished it yet. I've been slow playing it. I'm in the last season now. I started that Perfect Fine movie with Gabrielle Union on Netflix.
I saw that.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
I fell asleep on it. It didn't. It wasn't hitting. But let me tell you what was hitting on Netflix, and
Real
I
quick,
think
Steve, the Gabrielle Union, is it a Netflix movie? Like,
um
is it one of them?
yeah, it's an actual Netflix movie.
No, no. I mean, like, one of those.
Oh, where
Hey, I
they
got a
just throw
script.
people in
I got
it?
a script. Say less.
Yeah, maybe.
I
I
Mm.
don't
don't
think
know.
it hit. I don't think it was gonna hit for me because looking at Gabrielle, part of the rom com lore is that you can actually maybe imagine these people being together. Gabrielle Union is like, we know you with Dwayne Wade. Like, I don't even think this role is for you. Like, I don't like it.
I gotta get back to Gab. I mean, I don't know. She hasn't been in anything in a while,
She's not that big of a like. I
and
don't
I,
get it. Like I never saw Bring It On, but it seems like that's kind of like what people, you know. Oh
oh
man,
yeah,
like that. You know,
She
that's what
she
made her
played
blow up.
she played the evil side chick or the evil other chick in like 1090s and early 2000s roles. That was
I
really
only
always her
remember
claim to
her
fame.
from. I only remember her from Bring It On, which I didn't see, and then I think it's called like Along Came Eva or something with LL Cool J.
Eva, deliver us from Eva.
I thought she did
Yeah.
good, but she was also in Bad Boys as the sister.
Mm,
Not huge roles, but she was in those. She had the show, the Spectrum show, LA's Finest with
yeah.
Jessica, whatever the fuck, Biel maybe, or no,
Mhm.
Jessica
Alba.
Alba.
Alba, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but she's kind of been gone for a little bit. You know, Deliver Us from Eva. She had that show or that movie. But yeah,
She's
she was
been
gone.
she's been the perennial side chick or mean girl in a number. Go look at all of her films. She's been the second chick in mad late 90s, early 2000s films. She always played the opposite chick that Morris Chestnut leaves Vivica Fox for and two for play can play that game. She's been that role. Like that's been her role historically. Even in Love and Basketball, Shawnee
Yo, did you know that there's a parody movie called Gay of Thrones,
Yo.
and she's in it?
I never heard of that.
Me either.
Mhm.
I was just going through her IMDb. This shit is crazy. Parodies the very popular show Game of Thrones. All right, I'm gonna have to go watch that. I didn't
Hmm.
know it existed, but she's in that apparently. Caught me on. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that caught me on guard. Was she in Birth of a Nation?
No,
I
I
didn't
don't
see that
think
one.
so.
They're saying she was.
Yeah, I didn't
I
see
don't
Um,
that.
think so.
but nonetheless, that movie was it didn't do much for me. But what I think you guys would appreciate, at least EJ would. I don't know how VP's childhood went. So I don't know if
I
he
know where he's going with this.
um. But on Netflix, there's a show called Muscles and Mayhem,
Hmm.
and it is a documentary about
American
um
Gladiators.
American gladiators. And I used to love American Gladiators. I wake up on Saturday morning, I turn on American Gladiators. I used to always want to be on the one where they had to shoot the shoot the
Target.
target.
Hmm.
Yo, American Gladiators was that shit for a little bit. But I've watched the first two episodes of that. I think it's a mini series. I think there's only six. Um, it's interesting, man. I think you would appreciate EJ. I know you would appreciate it. VP, I think you'd appreciate it a little bit because you like origin stories and you like to know where stuff started and useless information. So the first episode I think would catch you a lot because it would give you like one day you'd be sitting in Applebee's and you'd hear some type of trivia and you'd know the answer to something wild off of that first episode. But I think you guys would appreciate that. They're
I
30-minute
started it.
or 40-ish minutes, 48 minutes. So not horrible, but I'm gonna
I
get back to
started it.
it.
I started it late last night, but I was too tired. But I was just happy to see some of the gladiators that survived over time.
Yeah, man. But kind of just hearing how like it's crazy when you go back to the 90s and shit. You like you think about how shit was back then. I don't know where like how did we get here? How did we get here in 2023? These dudes was like, yo, we was just sniffing cocaine. It was pretty broads. Like, oh,
It was
wow,
crazy. It's definitely crazy for the 5 minutes I watched. I was like, okay.
dude. They're like,
Yeah.
people was just running into us. It was they said the contact was real. Like the first season, there was only 13 episodes. They're saying the first 13 episodes, two of the people didn't make it through it. One of them had a catastrophic injury. Like they had no doctor, no health insurance. Like it was crazy, yo. You guys would
Yeah.
appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
You,
I'm gonna watch. I'm
you
definitely get into it.
yeah. I'm gonna knock that out. I'll probably finish that maybe today or tomorrow. Other than that, just those two things that or three things that I've been watching. Nothing too crazy. Nothing really has popped up that I want to see. I'm interested. They just put out "It's a Cake 2" or "Is It Cake 2?" Did you guys watch Is It Cake on Netflix? The first one. It has Mikey Day as the host. VP being a Saturday Night Live person, you might appreciate it. But Mikey Day is the host, and it's basically they put stuff up that looks like cakes. Like they might show this box, and they'll show like three images of this box, and one of them is cake, and you got to guess which one is the cake. Them bakers is good, man. The shit is it's one of them things that you put on when you don't want to think. Like you're not worried about thinking and following a story, just like some white noise, and you watch it. It's pretty dope. So I'm interested in watching the second one.
No, and I'm gonna go back and watch on FX. I'm gonna go back and get back into Justified because they're coming out with a new series. But I used to pick and watch it every now and then, and it looked good. I just never stuck to it. But I know the same creator. I believe the same creator, Sons of Anarchy and the Shield. Kirk Sutter. I think he's behind it. So I know it's probably raw, but I want to go back and watch that.
I need him to get like a HBO show, HBO or Cinemax. Like I need some true raw shit from him. The one thing before we get out of here that I wanted to say that I started watching also was the 85 South dudes, DC Young Fly,
Yeah,
Chico
yeah,
Bean.
yeah. I
I
watched
started
that.
watching that on Netflix.
I
I
watched
watched it
that.
late at night, so I fell asleep. But it looked pretty. I mean, pretty good. Listen, I
What
got.
is that? It's like a comedy special. I see it, but I haven't like
So
watched
it's
it.
basically their podcast that they do live, and it's
Mhm.
basically a recording of their podcast in Atlanta.
Gotcha.
So it's not
Okay.
like they're don't because you get kind of confused because I was looking at it going into it like are they doing like a comedy special or are
Stand
they
up,
doing their
yeah.
show? And it's basically if you ever watch their show, it's basically their live podcast,
Yeah,
not
I've watched it before on
podcast
YouTube.
per
Unscripted.
se, but yeah, it's
Yeah, it's just
unscripted. And
unscripted.
them I tell you what, them boys are talented, man. Like,
Yeah, they are.
especially DC Young Fly. I mean, them boys can do it all. Like,
I
and
fuck with
they wasn't
Carlos,
super
man.
funny.
Carlos Miller. That dude
He's super
is.
funny.
He's a G. He a G.
It wasn't super duper like every minute you're laughing funny, but it was just an enjoyable overall watch to me.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I
Yeah, I
watched
watched it
them.
late at night and fell asleep, so I gotta finish it.
Yeah,
I
I
like
watched
those
them
dudes.
on YouTube. I remember they had the guy, Wall Street Trapper, the dudes and investing and stuff like that. And he was talking about how, like, they asked him like how he got into investing. He was telling his whole story about when he was locked up, blah 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 blah. And he was like, "Yeah, man, it was like I was locked up from 2005 to like whatever year." And he was like, "Oh, nigga." He's like, "Man, that was dog. You missed, man. That's back when we was wearing them long t-shirts, man." He's like, "Man, nigga, man, we was nutting them bitches, though." I was like, "Yo."
Yeah,
Yo,
they be wilding.
them dudes are talented, and it's funny because I missed a lot of the Wilding Out episodes of the past. So, like when they come on Facebook, I catch them, and that was a really good like sketch show.
I'm still watching it. The new season is out
Yeah,
of Wildin' Out.
yeah. It's I mean just the stuff that they do on the fly, and just there's a real talented group of people. Like I got to
Yeah,
give Nick Cannon his props for that.
yeah. I've been watching that. I'm caught up on that on this season for Wildin' Out. That's something that I always watch. One of my guilty pleasures, just watching them do wild ass shit. Um, what else, man? Anything else?
Yeah, man. Real quick before we got here, three quick things. First, we didn't talk about it during the NBA free agency, but shout out to Rich Paul, man. That dude negotiated almost $400 million in contracts
Yep.
this
Bigger shout out to
free agency.
LeBron for putting Rich Paul on. Bring your
Yeah,
man's with you, man.
I said that to somebody on social media who was like, "Yo, this just proves all you need is your mind and the ability to be able to speak or whatever." And I was like, I mean, his proximity to LeBron doesn't hurt, so,
Right, exactly. There's
like let's not get it twisted,
a
but
little influence there, just a
Being
little bit.
right,
LeBron's man,
right. But shout out to him. Uh, one more time, I just want to wish my wife a happy anniversary,
All right,
and
man. We get it. We get it.
yeah, yeah.
and finally,
You
also
must have
want
done
to
something bad. You
also
probably
want
forgot.
to also want to just send a very happy birthday out to EJ's daughter.
No, thank you, brothers. Appreciate it. She's
Hmm.
driving me crazy already.
Which daughter is it?
Is the baby Madison? She's turned 9 today. So,
Oh,
Oh,
damn.
yep.
Last time I saw her, she was a baby.
Nigga,
Probably
you
because I haven't been
never
invited to go
mind.
to Baltimore since then.
Yeah, all right.
Like she was a baby when I saw her.
Yeah, I think that was the last time we might have been in Florida with her. I can't remember though.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if I was her because yeah, but
It was
yeah,
her.
yeah, yeah. You haven't been up here. It's a whole nother thing. But rest
No
in peace to the two.
invitations.
Yeah, okay. Rest in peace to the two people that lost their lives in the mass shooting in
In
Baltimore
Baltimore.
last night. The 28 people that got hit. Yeah,
Did they release any? I hate that mass shooting word. Like I want to know: was this a mass shooting, or was it with just some niggas, and it was a bunch of people? So a lot of people got hit.
by definition, it
By
doesn't matter.
definition, we get it,
Yeah,
we get it. But nonetheless, there's a difference between something that's someone going that woke up and said, you know what,
yeah.
I'm gonna go make history today, and
The
someone who
motivation.
was like, yo, you just dance with my girl, I'll be right back, went to the car and had all disregard for human life. Like I get
Yeah,
it. It's still a mass shooting, but I just, I like to hear the stories behind some of these things.
I would go with the latter to say that it's probably targeted beef, summer in the city.
But nonetheless, to VP's point, it's gun violence, and if guns didn't exist, who knows? We probably would be British.
Yeah, yeah, be much safer. But I mean, those neighborhoods, Brooklyn and Cherry Hill, Baltimore, South Baltimore, Westport, just historically have been going through it. I don't know what the leaders of the city are gonna do, but gotta do something because we got a long summer and they were just releasing
Oof.
numbers on how we might not break 300 murders this year. I think
Y'all
is a
need a
lie.
Baltimore needs a curfew.
Oh, they
Chicago
have
needs
one.
a curfew.
They have one. They have one for young people, but yeah, I mean, it's I don't know what they're gonna do. I
Ain't
don't know what
nobody
they're gonna do.
enforcing it. That's the problem. They need to enforce a curfew in
Well,
Baltimore,
no, no, no,
Chicago. There's other cities too
no, no,
that
no.
need
Let
it,
me
but
no, no, no. Let me actually say why. To your point, the enforcement of it, real quick. The curfew only exists in certain neighborhoods. So at the harbor, Fells Point, Federal Hill, which are all bar neighborhoods, in which the residents have complained about the young people being down there. But when you're talking about like the residential poor areas, there are no curfews.
oh, they don't
There's
care. Yeah,
probably no police presence because you had 30 people at a cookout and there was probably no police presence around there last night. So,
yeah, man. Shout out to you guys, man. Happy birthday to Madison and happy anniversary to Aaron.
happy anniversary to Aaron and only Aaron.
That's right. Just Aaron. She puts up with Vari, and I know what that's like. So 20 years, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. So there's that.
Yeah, happy anniversary, man. Definitely.
appreciate it. Appreciate it.
That's all I got for this rendition of the Castworthy podcast. Wow, done by 11:30. Usually y'all not even at the monitor until 11:20 ish or so. Phew, look at me keeping
Y'all.
look at me keeping y'all
Y'all.
on track. Whew.
You forgot your last name is Black Man.
Hey, listen, the chat tells a story. The first text this morning, from anyone on the Castworthy podcast, came from who?
Yeah, me. When I sent it early last night,
That
early this
last night
morning,
don't count.
early this morning.
We've gotten texts from you the night before, and then the next afternoon you're like, yo, I just woke up from this bender last night.
Ooh, ooh, talk about it.
Wow. See, this motherfucker VP. 1 week, 1 week he got my back, and the next week
I mean,
he
that
did,
has happened, yo.
he
I remember
drives the
you sitting
night
here
beat.
like,
Yeah, but we don't
yo, you
never
text
talk.
last night saying he can be ready right at 9. It's 3 o'clock. Where
We
he
don't
at?
never talk about how this dude be getting the link ready for 2 hours, sitting here looking at his computer like he got a Dr. Dre studio board
Listen,
he be
there's
up
magic.
here looking. He be up here looking like
There's magic behind this. You think your
got the
skin just look like that by no? You think this happens in
yo.
in minutes?
He got the Iron Man Tony Stark shit. He like Jarvis.
Listen, it,
Oh my
it takes
god,
time to
yo.
create perfection,
Wow.
baby.
This is
Oh
crazy.
man.
This is foul. I'm getting out
All
of here.
right, man. I'm gonna hand it to y'all because I
I'm
think I'm
not
gonna go get
wanted.
some. I think I'm gonna go get some breakfast now since we made it down before noon.
Mhm.
All right, VP man. If you can do the honors and get us up out of here for this one.
Yes, sir. As always, man, make that phone call, reach out to your people, see how they doing, check in on folks. They'll appreciate it. You will too. Tomorrow's not promised. And as always, man, we definitely appreciate you guys for rocking with us on this on time, early Sunday morning
Mm-hmm.
episode of the Castworthy podcast. For those of you who are joining now, you're probably like, wait, are they rapping? What the hell's going on? So, but regardless, we appreciate you taking time out of your Sunday morning to rock with us. And for those who are listening once the episode posts, we appreciate you as well. You can find the podcast on all podcasting platforms by searching at Castworthy. You also can follow us on any of our social media by searching at Castworthy. On Instagram, it's at Castworthy_podcast. While you're there, you can leave a like, share, subscribe, follow, tell a friend, help us grow the audience. We very much appreciate it. And with that being said, man, you guys stay safe, stay positive, and we will see you guys on next week for another fresh episode of the Castworthy podcast. We out. We love you. Peace.